Hello, everybody. It is me, Jurassic Master, here to say that today we're gonna be doing watching behind the scenes of our Frozen Past. Now, last video, a lot of people were telling me what the dinosaur was because I didn't know. I learned that this whole series takes in North America, which I didn't know. A lot of people let me know. Thank you, everybody who's let me know. But thank you everybody who's actually subscribed to the channel and actually helped me out to get to 100. Thank you guys so much. This is crazy. And I want to thank everybody who's helped me get to 100. But yeah, let's watch behind the scenes.
Hello, my name is David and welcome to this making of video covering my recent animated short film, Our Frozen Past. This is the second film in my Dinosauria animated series, and behind the scenes I have been making this big old sketchbook, I've been doing research and drawings and even clay sculptures for each of the films in this series. The animated short films might be the end result, but there's a whole lot more to these projects that you guys have not seen yet. So, let's get started.
He does such a good job with these. I love them. Look at him, little baby, little baby. Oh my gosh, he's cutting off the table.
When this project began, it didn't start as a series. I really only planned on making one film, and that was Old Buck. But I ended up enjoying working on that film so much that before I'd even finished it, I was already looking to start many,
I think that's going to be the next episode. Oh, I see a Spino.
I started a film about a multi-species herd of hadrosaurs. I started a film about Charles R. Knight-esque retro paleo art, and I even experimented with a film about Spinosaurus' constant revisions. But none of these ideas were really grabbing my attention at the time. For this film, I really wanted to depict dinosaurs in an environment people aren't totally accustomed to seeing them in, acting not quite how people are accustomed to seeing them act, and even looking not quite how people are accustomed to seeing them look. But all still within a certain scientific reason.
Goose.
For inspiration, I've been making a consistent effort to go down to all my local wildlife ponds to birdwatch and gather reference material for this series. I started work on this particular film in early 2021. We had a slightly colder winter here in my part of Scotland, and eventually all of those ponds started to freeze over. Snow fell a lot heavier than it usually does here, and all of those ponds stayed frozen for a few weeks. During this time, the swans and the moorhens and the coots were all forced to walk on top of the frozen water instead of paddling through it, which really got my imagination going. I mean, every single animal that you can see on screen right now are not just the descendants of dinosaurs. They're not just distantly related to dinosaurs. All modern birds belong to the Dinosauria clade, which is what this very series is named after. These are feathery and scaly, egg-laying modern dinosaurs with complex social behaviours which I've been watching and recording for a month or two at this point. Now, I was watching them change and adapt to this particularly cold winter, acting in ways I don't often see them act. This is where the idea for Our Frozen Past really started. Inspired by this colder than usual Scottish winter, I decided to set my film in the Prince Creek Formation 69 million years ago, which is now modern-day Alaska. This is one of the coldest and most extreme environments we know dinosaurs lived in. Even though the Earth during the Mesozoic was a much hotter place than it is today, in late Cretaceous Alaska, the temperature still did drop pretty considerably during the winter months, the region being plunged into total darkness for 120 days of the year, possibly even snowing during the absolute worst of it. The moment I stand, he's going to hiss at me again. No, they're little dinosaurs. I'm planning on making at least one large clay sculpture for each of the films in my Dinosauria series. For this film in particular, I wanted to make a two-piece sculpture depicting a naturalistic scene between a mother Troodon and her chick.
Oh, it was a Troodon.
I started by rolling up a bunch of clay sausages, waiting for them to dry, gluing them all together, eventually bulking out the general shape of a troodonted dinosaur. Once the basic shape was blocked out and dried solid, I started adding finer detail work with whatever tool I could find that would make some feathery looking marks.
He does amazing with these sculpting.
I use DAS air drying clay for my models, which most people don't like to use. Super Sculpey and Milliput are most people's go-tos for this kind of work, which are far more expensive. Regardless, I still wanted to give these mediums a try, so I planned on making the Troodon chick out of Milliput as a test, which honestly didn't go very well. This stuff is extremely firm and tough to shape. I think I could certainly get used to this, and I definitely see the appeal, but for me there is really no benefit to using this over DAS clay except for its structural integrity. This stuff dries a lot faster and a lot stronger than any other sculpting medium I've ever used. I even decided to snap off and resculpt the legs of my Troodon mother with a Milliput core to make her more structurally secure. Once I was happy enough with the sculpt of these two, I primed the models, I painted them with acrylic paints and brushes, I threw on some fake snow and matte varnish, and of course made sure to serenade the sculpture while all of those coats dried.
Let it get me down, 'cause this fine old world, it keeps spinning around.
I was very sick when I painted this.
Oh my god.
Overall, I do like this piece, but it has a lot of flaws. I think the mother looks nice enough, but the chick has some of the most lifeless eyes I've ever seen and looks like a big ugly slug.
Oh,
I also
it
don't
looks
think
amazing,
I've
dude.
ever sculpted a fully feathered animal before, and I should have done some test pieces in preparation. While some of the areas of the sculpture, like the spine of the tail and the back of the head, look quite nice, I'm really unsatisfied with the larger feather detail on the wings and on the tail fan.
I don't know what you mean, man. These look amazing.
That all being said though, the overall piece is very pleasant, and it does capture that naturalistic motherly feel I wanted it to have. And when accompanied with my old buck Styracosaurus sculpture,
Yes.
I do think these two pieces complement each other really well.
I love these. These are just so amazing. Like, he did an amazing job with these. The story. Yes. Yes.
This film takes place in late Cretaceous Alaska, 69 million years ago, and follows a mother Troodon of two chicks
That's a
during
funny
the
number.
winter season. The mother, passing a family of Pachyranosaurus, leaves her den to not only gather food, but also explore. Snow has recently fallen and she's curious about her new surroundings. She even stops and playfully mimics the sounds of some falling icicles on the way. Her curiosity, however, brings her a little bit too far outside of her territory as she runs into the apex predator of the region, a Nanooksaurus. The Tyrannosaur manages to track the mother to her den using its superior sense of smell. This is a harsh environment, and a fight with the protective mother Troodon is dangerous. Instead, the animal snatches up one of her chicks.
That one hurt.
The situation gets more and more desperate as the predators multiply. There is no way that this lone mother can save her remaining chick from these two apex predators. So, as a last resort, she begins to bellow a strange call into the night. What she is doing here is attempting to mimic the sound of the baby Pachyranosaurus that she heard earlier, in hopes to attract the nearby family of ceratopsians to unwittingly aid her. This works. The ceratopsians are drawn to the scene by what they think is the sound of a squealing infant of their own species and chase the predators off. Finally, we see mother and chick leaving their den together to find a new home. The mother stopping right by where the icicles fell, quickly teaching her chick the importance of their mimicry and problem-solving skills.
I do like this episode.
Going all the way
It was a
back
good one.
to the start of my sketchbook, you'll find a film called All Days, which was going to be a post-apocalyptic survival film, but with dinosaurs and other prehistoric beasts thrown in. I never finished this film, but managed to salvage some of the ideas and the research and the assets and created my Dinosauria series from its ashes. I mention this because All Days was going to be about a father trying to save his daughter from a Tyrannosaurus Rex. The film was going to build on the viewer's sense of dread and hopelessness as the situation got worse and worse. Eventually, the human characters would use their superior intelligence to survive, using a handcrafted horn to mimic the sounds of a panicking baby elephant, attracting a herd of Colombian mammoths to the scene, chasing the predator off. Sound familiar?
Nope, I've never heard that one. Never?
I essentially repurposed All Day's entire story for this film, but with a mother Troodon, a pair of Nanooksaurus, and a family of Pachyranosaurus instead. This idea starting from here and ending up all the way over here, which only goes to show how weird and wonky and wonderful the creative process can be sometimes.
Honestly, yeah. Sound design. Yes.
When I started this series, I knew these films were going to have no voice acting in them whatsoever, no narration. So I've been making a conscious effort to improve my sound design work.
Dude, you're doing a great job.
A large chunk of the sound effects you'll hear are royalty-free sounds, but I would estimate over half of what you'll hear in these Dinosauria films is recorded by me personally.
I always love behind the scenes. I was waiting for that.
This environmental Foley stuff is
See, that's
one
him
thing,
roaring as
but
the
the
dinosaur.
challenge comes in the form of the animal sounds. The Nanooksaurus, for example, are a mix of crocodiles hissing, elephants grumbling, and even my own grunts and snorts and snarls are thrown in there as well. All of this is slowed down and pitch shifted and reverberated, whatever makes it sound right. Every single dinosaur in this series so far has my voice in their mix somewhere. The most glaring example is definitely the Troodon mother and her chicks, which I would estimate are about 75% created using just my voice. Somewhere in there is the sound of a bird, the rest of it is the sound of me hissing, the sound of me snorting, the sound of me clapping some wood together, and the sound of me rubbing a dry paintbrush against a canvas.
Yo!
Sound design is something I don't talk about very much in my making of videos, and that's because I don't really enjoy doing it. I don't think I'm particularly good at it, and it always feels like a chore. People have offered to do it for me, but I want to enjoy doing sound design work. I want to learn to be good at it. It has been one of the bigger challenges for me working on this series, but I welcome that challenge. The sound design in Old Buck and Our Frozen Past I still don't think is particularly brilliant, but it is leagues better than anything else I've done in the past, so I definitely think I'm improving.
Dude, this is amazing. I don't know what you're talking about. This is amazing. I love this.
The first animal featured and the star of this film is an Arctic Troodon. Now, Troodon is a very frustrating genus to research because it was a wastebasket taxon for a long time. That means, for many, many years, a bunch of very lazy paleontologists were throwing a collection of unrelated species under the same Troodon label. Not because said fossils really belonged there, but because they just didn't really fit anywhere else. Troodon was a mess, but the group has since been re-evaluated and split into at least 2 or 3 separate genuses now, I think. Again, it's hard to research, and Troodon itself is now a potentially dubious taxon. The animal featured in this film hasn't even been given a name, as this Arctic Troodon is only known from a fossil tooth. But that tooth is abnormally large. This Arctic Troodon species is the largest of the dubious group, at around 50% larger than its southern relatives.
Oh, dang, he's that big?
Troodons have very large
I was expecting
eyes,
like the
were
size like a
probably
raptor, like a
nocturnal,
little
and were
chicken.
also likely omnivorous, and being an opportunistic, omnivorous and nocturnal creature in a region that is pitch
Actually, they
black
were big,
for
but not
120
that big.
days of the year was probably responsible for their success and increased size in the Arctic.
That is crazy. I was
Troodontid
thinking...
dinosaurs were quite smart by dinosaur standards, famously having the largest brains in comparison to their body size of any non-avian dinosaur. I wanted to make a film that showed dinosaurs as smarter and curious and playful and aware of their surroundings, and that very intelligence is the reason I chose to base this film around one. The second animal featured in this film is the centrosaurine ceratopsid Pachyranosaurus peritorum, and I know what you all want me to talk about. It is a common and heavily criticised trend in recent paleoart to depict this particular animal with a shaggy coat of fur-like filaments given the colder environment in which it lived.
I love how he paints
And I've
them,
done the
just
same.
like everything.
The excuse you'll hear for this comes in the form of a little species of early ceratopsian dinosaur called Pachyranosaurus. We have a number of incredibly well-preserved specimens of this animal. We know almost exactly how it looked in life, and it had a fan of tubular, quill-like bristles running down its tail. It is still a big leap to go from a fan of cornified bristle quills to a full shaggy muskox-looking coat of filaments,
But it looks cool.
50 million odd years separate these two, so it's certainly not impossible. I personally do not think this is how Pachyranosaurus peritorum looked. This particular design looks a little bit too mammalian, but again, it's not impossible, and a bit of speculation in paleoart I think is quite healthy, And having an all-fluffy cast for this film was a creative decision I was absolutely not going to pass up on.
Understandable. Yeah.
The third and final animal featured in this film is the Tyrannosaur Nanooksaurus Hoglundi. Hoglundi? Hoglundi?
Poglundi?
I have no idea.
What?
This animal, like the Arctic Troodon, is known from extremely scarce material, just one partial jawbone. In contrast to the larger than average successful Troodon, Nanooksaurus was a quarter a Tyrannosaur's expected size.
I love that
This
he put like little
dwarf species of Tyrannosaur seemed to be struggling more so in this colder climate compared to its southern relatives, shrinking in size, likely because of the scarcer food in this harsher environment. This isn't to say that Nanooksaurus wasn't the apex predator of the region. It likely was. These two animals were of comparable size, but the bulkier, heavier Tyrannosaur
Love, but there's
is going to
dinosaurs
win this
fighting.
fight. The designs I came up with for my Nanooksaurus are probably my favourites of this series. Tyrannosaurs are Coelurosaurs, and Coelurosaurs are an all-round very feathery group. Some of the most basal members of this group have feathers, and this group includes all modern birds. Feathered Tyrannosaurs are extremely reasonable, and given the smaller size and colder climate that Nanooksaurus lived in, I feel a shaggy, fluffy depiction of this animal is a perfectly accurate one. A lot of research and work goes into these projects, but this film still has its fair share of inaccuracies and pretty far-fetched speculative ideas. Firstly, snow was actually not very common in this environment. It certainly could have snowed during the absolute coldest parts of the year, but what I've depicted here seems like a permanent frozen snowy wasteland, and it just wasn't. This level of snowfall would have been very, very rare, if not completely impossible. This leads into another inaccuracy. There is no way that a large predator like Nanooksaurus would be white in coloration. This camouflage works for a polar bear that lives in the snow all year round, but it is totally useless if where you live barely snows at all, and when it does, it's during total 24-hour darkness. And finally, the Troodon's mimicry skill is probably the most far-fetched speculation of the film, as there really is no evidence for this whatsoever. Troodon was the smartest non-avian dinosaur we know of, yes, and mimicry is something that modern birds do, but birds have to dedicate a whole lot of their brains to do it, and as far as I know, no modern birds today are smart enough to use mimicry to strategize and manipulate to the extent that my Troodon does in this film. I really do not think that Troodon was this smart, and was likely not capable of such complex bird-like vocalizations either. None of these inaccuracies bother me in the slightest. All were made deliberately and with a greater storytelling purpose in mind. Our Frozen Past is not a documentary. It's a short film, and I love this film. I think the narrative here is really well balanced. Even with the wild speculations, these animals still feel like animals to me. I love the pacing, the setup, and especially the mimicry, foreshadowing, and payoff, all without saying a word. The visuals, the atmosphere, the dinosaur designs, I all think are some of my best. The building sense of dread as the situation gets more and more desperate was incredibly satisfying to pull off, and the salvaging of all days, the failed project that started this Dinosauria series off in the first place, made the whole thing feel really full circle. This is easily my personal favourite of the Dinosauria series, flaws and all, at least so far. I mean, who knows? The other 3 films in this series aren't finished yet, so maybe I'll
3 more
grow to like
episodes?
them even more.
3 more episodes. No! So we only get 3 more? I want more! They're so good!
If you want to support this series, or support me, or read through this sketchbook I've been showing off in this video, you can. High-resolution photographs of the entire book have just been uploaded to my Patreon page. You can also gain access to my animated short films 2 weeks before they're released here on YouTube. Thank you all so much for watching. But the video is over now, and I must go outside and record some B-roll for the outro. Right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the pond that is the furthest away from my house, this one here, with these 2 swans, and give them some feed, see how they're doing. I don't think I've seen those particular swans in like a month, so let's go.
Oh god, there's no swans. I love this show. This show has been amazing. I think there's deer. This show has been
Special
amazing.
thanks to all of my top Patreon supporters on screen right
This
now.
like
Hopefully,
I
scrolling
love this
over
show
a
so
pair
much.
of swans,
It's been
getting
so
some
amazing.
delicious
He's
feed.
done such a good job. I hope
Really couldn't have made this series
that
without
he makes a
all
season
you
2.
guys.
I am
Thank you
wanting
again.
a season 2. Like if we don't get a season 2, I think I'm gonna cry because this show has been so amazing. Like he's done such a great job, and it seems like we're gonna get 3 more episodes. I just hope that he has more. Like this is real. Like I want to start my own show for like a dinosaur show. I want to start my own one now because like this is amazing. He's done such a good job with like everything of like the art of how it looks. Like beautiful. He's done such a great job. I want more, but like I know how it's like of like you need time to make it. I know. I'm in that department of content creation and making animations. I know what that's like. But he's doing such a good job. This is amazing. He's done amazing. I love it. But I think that's all I have to say. This Friday I'm going to be doing a live stream. So if you want to hop in the chat and we'll talk. I'm going to be playing Minecraft with some of my friends. It might be my one and only live stream. But yes, I know I'm a day late on this. I'm sorry. I didn't know I was going to be a day late. I thought it was going to be like another week because the last time it was a week out. So I'm like, okay, cool. I got a week to not worry about a video. Video came out 24 hours ago. But thank you guys for watching. It means so much to me. You took the time out of your day to watch this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, bread, frog, chicken, apricots.